first want to say that the format initially for the program is, it's not going to be a lecture. Dr. Eldad is not going to lecture. He's going to respond to questions. And I'm going to begin by asking him a series of questions, which I think should be of some interest to everyone, especially if you're familiar with some of the history of the past in terms of the establishment of Medinat Israel. I also want to say that Dr. Eldad has asked me to ask you for savlanut, for patience and understanding, since he says that his English is somewhat heavily accented, and his eloquence is really Ivrit. I brought along, by the way, I'm going to ask him for at least a bracha at the beginning of the Sefer that I read. It was a gift from my friend Ephraim Buchwald a number of years ago, Hegyanot Mikra rather, which is a very, very enjoyable book on Chumash, Tanakh. Dr. Eldad was born in 1910 in Poland. He studied in Vienna. He has a doctorate in philosophy from the University of Vienna. He wrote on Schopenhauer. He has translated Nietzsche into Hebrew. Dr. Eldad also finished the Seminar de Rabbanim in Vienna. He's a close friend of Menachem Begin, Yitzchak Shamir. In fact, Begin was arrested at one point in time when he was playing chess with Dr. Eldad, I'm told. They escaped together in the 1930s to Eretz Israel. Dr. Eldad was one of the leaders of the Stern Group, resistance group, which in Hebrew was called Lechi Lochamei Cherut Yisrael. And since the establishment of the State of Israel, he has been a lecturer at the University of Haifa and Beersheba, although I'm told in the beginning, because of strong ideological differences, the first Prime Minister of the State of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, did not allow Dr. Eldad to teach for a while in Israel. Dr. Eldad is a columnist for Haaretz and Yediot Achronot, and in general a close confidant to both Prime Minister Begin and Prime Minister Yitzchak Shamir, a person who has certainly shaped and molded a part of the character of the State of Israel from before its inception and since its inception, and a man who is certainly worth meeting and listening to, even if it's for a short visit. Now, I'm going to begin with a series of questions relating to the past, but they're questions that have always intrigued me. And I always had some measures of, I had some comprehension of some solutions to these questions, and other things I don't really know what the answer is. When I was in Russia in 1972, so we spent our last couple of days in Russia, including Simchat Torah, in the city of Leningrad, and we met a fascinating young woman. You know, today there are a lot of Hebrew teachers in the Soviet Union, and there are a lot of people who speak an unbelievable Ivrit in the Soviet Union. But in 1972, that did not exist, and it was rare to find somebody who spoke Hebrew fluently in the Soviet Union then. We met a girl outside the Beit Knesset in Leningrad who told us that her name was Yehudit Shulman and that she came from Siberia. And she was studying in the university, and she spoke a fluent Hebrew. And I asked her whether there was some sort of school in Siberia where they taught Ivrit. And she said she learned from her father Ivrit, and we got to spend a lot of time with the girl, and we trusted her. And so we confided in her that the day after Simchat Torah, we were leaving the Soviet Union, and in fact, we were not going back to the United States, but we were going to Israel. And when Yehudit heard that we were going to Israel, she asked us to please look up her uncle, whose name was Nachman Shulman. He was a professor at the Hebrew University, and to give regards. Well, sure enough, we did that, and we found a gentleman, must have been in his 50s at the time, Nachman Shulman. We struck up quite a friendly relationship with him, and he told us that his brother got caught in 1938 behind when the Russians in 1939 when the Russians and the Germans made their deal. His brother got caught, and his brother was on the verge of leaving to Israel, and his brother was sent by the Russians ultimately back to Siberia, and that saved his life. He told us when he arrived in Israel, he joined an organization called Etzel, the Irgun Tzva'i Leumi, the Irgun. And when Abraham Stern left the Irgun to form Lechi, Lochamei Cherut Yisrael, he, Nachman Shulman, left with him. And then ultimately he left Lechi, because he told me something which to this day is an enigma, and I don't even know that I'm repeating what he said to me accurately. But he told me that Abraham Stern felt, when around the early moments of World War II, felt that since the British were fighting the Germans, and since the people in Israel had the British as enemies, that the only sensible thing to do was to form some sort of relationship with the Germans to fight the British, because they had a common enemy. And he said that was too much for him. As a Jew who came from Europe, he knew what the Nazis were, and it was inconceivable that any Jew could have anything to do with the Nazis. So I have my first question to you, Dr. Eldad, is, first of all, what was this so significant in terms of the ideological differences between an organization like Etzel and an organization like Lechi, the Irgun and the Stern Group, that there had to be a split in an organization that seemed to have been fighting the British in a particular way, as opposed to the diplomacy of, say, Haganah? And secondly, is there any truth to the story, or what exactly is the story in terms of Abraham Stern's concept of having some sort of relationship with the Germans?
Generally, we have to go from Hakal el Hamur, and generally we have to go from the light questions to the hard question. He started with one of the hardest questions.
We have such little time.
It is very hard. First of all, I will apologize about my English. You will have to suffer, and I promise you to compensate you when you will come to Israel. I will suffer you Hebrew. The reason for the break in the Irgun was the question how to deal with the British in time of the World War. It was a tragic situation. The British closed the gates of the country just in the most tragic moment of our history. The Balfour Declaration, the mandate and the Zionism came up to save the Jewish people, to save our life, just in such a moment. Nobody knew about the gas camera. Not even Herzl, it was a prophet. But we knew, all Zionists at least, that it will be a catastrophe for the millions of Jews in Europe. Herzl explained in one of his speeches that Kishinev, the pogrom in Kishinev, the famous pogrom in Kishinev, 93, 70 Jews were killed. 70 Jews. And it was a storm all over the world. And Herzl said, it is a danger that all Europe will become one Kishinev. Now just therefore was the happiness with the Balfour Declaration, with the mandate. We have a national home. And just in the moment, 1939, they closed the third white paper, finally closed. 75,000 Jews only will be allowed to come to Israel, and this also with the permission of the Arabs. You know their permission. The Irgun started to fight against the British 1938. In the previous years, we fought against the Arabs. 1938, especially after the gallows of Shlomo ben Yosef, it was a battery, it was in Galilee, and one day after a Jewish bus was bombed and Jewish women were raped, he went out with two friends without command from the Irgun, and he shoot an Arab bus. Nobody was hurt, but he was condemned to death. and he was hanged. His last wish was to die with the name of Jabotinsky on his lips. After this gala, we were a better conference in Warsaw, and that was a big discussion between Jabotinsky and Menachem Begin. Menachem Begin was in strong position against Jabotinsky. Jabotinsky said he still believes on the conscience of the vote. The vote is not a vote of robbery, the vote is a vote of justice. And we have to appeal to the feeling of justice all over the world, even in England. There exists a better England than Chamberlain or than after the Begin and so on. Begin stood up and said, Mr. Jabotinsky, Rosh Bitar, after Munich, and it was 2-3 months after Munich, when Czechoslovakia was sold out, we don't believe more in a bold conscience. Jabotinsky answered him, if you don't believe, Mr. Begin, he was a young man at the time, if you don't believe in a bold conscience, go to the Wisla, it was the Hudson of Warsaw, the river of Warsaw, and drown yourself. No hope for us. That was the discussion. It was my first conference of Bitar which I participated. I went on, and of course, almost automatically I was in time on the side of Begin. I read in Jabotinsky's biography of the Congress of Uganda, 94, when Herzl suggested to go to make a Jewish state in Uganda. He saw Weizmann sitting in a table and discussing. He was young, 22, and he asked, who is this man? They are in opposition. If opposition, it is my problem. I'm going this opposition. In principle, I'm in opposition. And this happened to me also. Where I am opposition, there I am. Must be something in my blood. Therefore, I was with Begin against Jabotinsky, and I told Jabotinsky that between us is a gap. Between the 19th century and 20th century. In the 20th century, in the centuries of Stalin and Hitler, we don't believe in a world conscience. We believe in Rakkach, which was the slogan of the Irgun Tzvei, only by Beten. But why I'm telling this? Because after my speech, somebody came to me and asked me to go up on the 4th stair to meet somebody. I went up. And I sat by 3 hours with a man. I did not know, I did not ask him, of course, who is, what is his name. I heard after I came in Israel, the date was Abraham Stern. He was one of the heads of the Irgun, which started to fight against the British. He heard what I said, and therefore he understood that I will go with him in the fighting, in the argument with Jabotinsky. He told me that it must be a split. Jabotinsky is a great politician, but he does not fit the situation. We have to go. The British are our enemies. In Hebrew we have a wordplay, Shilton Zar, a Zar, a strange, a foreign government, a foreign power. Achzar, it means a cruel government. And Abraham Stern said, הבריטים הם לא שלטון אכזר, שלטון זר. They are not only a cruel government, they are a strange government. And we have to fight to pull them out. 1938. At the time there were 500,000 Jews in so-called Palestine. And he started together with David Raziel, which was the commander of the Irgun, to fight against the British. But Ibn Jabotinsky prepared a revolt. He prepared a military action to mobilize 40,000 Jewish boys from Europe especially, which were military trained by Polish anti-Semite officers. They became very great Zionists because they want to be rid of millions of Jews. And it was not bad to go together if we have together the same goal. They were interested to take the Jews out of Poland. We were interested to do them into Palestine. But on a short way, we can go together. I telling you this story, it is interesting for itself, but it has to do with your main question. Where I can go together even with anti-Semites. The same fate was of Herzl. Herzl went to Russia in 1992, and he went to the Tsar and to the Russian commissar, which were responsible for the pogroms. And he was attacked by the socialists on the Zionist Congress. Why you go to them? He said, because the fate of the Jews is in their hands. I have to take the Jews out of their hands. Therefore I go to them. So Jabotinsky planned to make an infiltration of 40,000 Jewish boy soldiers from Europe, through Romania and through Italy, and to take over the land. In Palestine at the time there were 5,000 British soldiers and policemen. Therefore it was really realistic possible. The date was the 1st of October 1939. The 1st of October 1939. The 1st of October 1939. The 1st of September brought out the Cold War. A month before. That means that we were too late. It is interesting that I'm telling that because you have to know a bit Zionist history. The first man who dreamed about the military take out of Palestine by military was Joseph Trumpeldor. Maybe you heard his name, from the Chalutzim, from the socialists. I think he was even a communist, but a communist not in the meaning of today, but what was a communist in the 20s. At that time it was really revolutionary. He wanted to have a Jewish state in Palestine, a communistic regime, as Russia is communistic. And he planned 1917 to mobilize 100,000 Jews from Russia, and he went from high school to high school, and there were plenty on the fields in Russia to pass the Caucasus and to take over from the Turks the country. It was very possible, if not the Russia Revolution. He did it in summer 1917. 7th of November came the Russian Revolution, which, except the Nazi regime, was the greatest disaster for the Jewish people, for the Jewish history. You know what is going on with Russian Jews today, but if not the Russian Revolution, we would have today a Jewish state with 10 million Jews. The Zionism came out. The roots of the Zionism are in Russia. All the Chalutzim, all the Persaliyas came from Russia. That means, why I'm telling you that, because it means that it was the second time that it came, we were too late. All the tragic of our generation is the Jewish state came also too late, 10 years too late. It's not the Holocaust, it's not the late coming of us. We would not have today a problem of Hebron and of Judea, Samaria. Maybe it would be a problem with Transjordan, but not in the western part. We'd have 6-7 million there. 1st of September, the World War. Now what to do? Ben-Gurion, maybe you know that this year will be 100 years of the birthday of Ben-Gurion, many celebrations and many congresses about Ben-Gurion. I was supposed to be in Sde Boker today about Ben-Gurion, but I'm here. Ben-Gurion defined the situation so. It was some months after the white paper which finishes Zionism. Ben-Gurion said, we have to fight the British as does not exist, we does not stay in war with Germany, and we have to fight the Germans as it does not exist the white paper. It was genius in definition. Impossible de facto. Or you fight with the British or you fight against them. You cannot at the same time to fight with them and against them. Jabotinsky was at that time in New York. Jabotinsky said the first moment, stop the fighting against the British. Our enemy, the only enemy is the German today. All of us, we have to fight the Germans. David Raziel, the commodore of Irgun, he was a disciplined man, a military man, accepted. And he gave the command of Irgun to stop the bombs, the British buildings and so on. Abraham Stern was against. His concept was just in time of war, when the British are in a bad situation, when they have come to concentrate their arms, their men, their soldiers, to bring them over to Europe. It was before Roman came to Africa. Just it is a good time to fight them here, until they will open the doors for the refugees. Refugees started to come from Romania, from Bulgaria, and the British started to shoot at the ships, Stroma, Atlantic, many ships of hundreds drowned. By the British, not by the Germans. If we will have a Jewish government with a Jewish army, automatically, of course, we are against the Germans. The Germans proclaimed the war against the Jews before they proclaimed the war against Paul or against the British. That was the point of the break. Here Stern split up. The majority of the people of Bekarim went with David Raziel with Jabotinsky, because Jabotinsky was a charismatic leader, and automatically they went what Jabotinsky would say they will do. A minority went with Abraham Stern to fight even in time of war. Sometimes I was asked how many you were in Lehi when you started to fight against the British. I'm told by 150. You believed, I was asked by newspapers and historians, you believe this 150 people, you will fight the British Empire and throw them out? I told them I would tell you the truth. Not even when we fought, even when I was in the prison. I was for 2 years in prison, only 2 years because I escaped. I would be until today if I couldn't escape. Even when I was in prison, I never felt such a minority. I felt that we are fighting a war for all the Jewish generations of 2,000 years, which are yearning and longing for freedom, for their own state. Not only of our old generations. I saw, and you don't need a vision, not a will for that. I saw my children. I had, when I was in prison, my daughter was a year old. She was a mate together with Benny, with his sons, in the same age, in the same month they were born. I saw my children. I saw already my grandchildren. I am fighting for them. I represent the majority of the Jewish history, of the Jewish will, of the Jewish need. Today we are fighting 150, then what? I think that the Jewish people has to know. We were all the time in all the history a minority. Against millions of people, millions, and so many beliefs and religions. Always we were a minority, and we won. We won through our existence. Our existence is a sign that we won the war against the great majority all over the world. So our history trained us to be and to fight in a minority. 150 people, the majority, the most of them already in prison, and known people by the British police. Therefore, when I came winter 40, when I came to the land of Israel, after the short story which the rabbi told you, was I lived together with my wife and Begin with his wife in one small apartment in a village in Poland. When in 1940, when the Russia came and took him to Siberia in need of a chess place, he said, Israel, we will continue in the play. He was at that time not too healthy, and I believed him. He continued, and he came 2 years after that and was let free from Siberia, and he came. So when I came with a group of veterans from Soter, when we came there, we were unknown by the police. Therefore, we were very fit to start to fight in the underground, because the police, we were not on the list of the police. And I joined. I met the second day, when I arrived second day, I met Abraham Stern. He was searched by the police, of course. And I joined and I started to write writings until 1944. Now to the German problem. When I came, the story was over. What was the truth? We did not plan to join the Germans. The Germans, until, that you have to know, it has to know, until summer 41, the Holocaust was not planned. They want to be rid of the Jews of Europe. Europe, Judenrein. We have to take out the Jews from Europe. Until July 41, every Jew would have some visa somewhere, they let him go. To Spain or to other countries. Tens of thousands of Jews left Germany and Poland during 40 and 41. They need only a visa, that they have to go. Hitler, not because he became a pro-Semitic pro-Jews. It was before the United States went into war, and he did not want to make through the Jews, to make America to join. He tried to struggle for them to help America outside the World War. He did not himself believe that it will be possible. But after when America came in war and started the war with Russia, he know this is the final war for the government of the world. He has no got to lose. He will finish with the Jews. Until summer 41, every Jews will not leave. And the Jews, many thousands of them left through Turk and were drowned by the British. Therefore, Abraham Stern said, we can make a deal with them, with the Germans. We try. We will fight against the British here in the Middle East under the condition the Germans will let out all the millions of Jews go out from Europe. That means it was, he tried to save millions of Jews to take them out from Europe through fighting here the British. And he wrote in his letters, maybe I will be treated as a traitor. I am with the Germans. Then, after we will have here the million Jews, and we will make our state, bring me to trial and hang me as a traitor. But the million Jews will be here. That was the idea. Of course, now, how? Today, after the Holocaust, and after, this is also very important to know, and you can follow it in all the books. Until 42, nobody was sure, or until America came in the war, nobody was sure who will win at the war. This was the situation. In Holocaust, nobody showed up to kill out, to murder out millions. They will suffer, they will be the ghettos, but maybe we can take them out. And finally, after all this apologizing his deeds, maybe it was wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was wrong. It was wrong because it did not show not the Holocaust, and not the German will lose the war, and not the impression which that will make. But it was, he sent two people. What was the working together? Never. He sent two boys to Beirut. One of them was not here anymore, and another boy to Beirut in 1940 in summer, to come in contact with a German diplomat which wrote a book, published a book. He was not a Nazi, he was a professional diplomat, embassy, and to bring him this proposal. We will fight the British, let the Jews out of Europe. He answered him, hunting, was his name. He answered him, I will be deliver this to Germany. I think it is too late. I think the Germans prefer to go with the Arabs. If the British prefer to go with the Arabs, why not the Germans against the Jews? That was the answer, and it was fire. But it was enough for the British to proclaim that he is the fifth column, and therefore they killed him. Just yesterday I found at my cousin's home here a paper from Israel Eldad last Friday, and the 2 great pages was interviewed an officer, a British officer, which admitted the first time that they killed him. They found his where he lived. They came in and just killed him without. They said at that time that he tried to escape. It's a lie, we know all the time. They murdered him. A week before I sit with him together, and he was sure that he will be touched by them. He told me that he was very glad. His mother, which came together with me, his mother started to work as a nurse in a hospital, and then he told me also that he is happy that his wife is pregnant. 6 months after he was murdered, she came to life. Yair Stern, Abraham Stern today, which is one of the main, was the editors on the television, the TV in Israel. 6 months after that, after he was killed. And he asked me and asked all our friends, don't take revenge of my blood. Start to fight against the British Empire government and not with the police. It's a too long story to tell what happened after that. This is a short answer.
I just don't want to be remiss. I want to also, I have to thank Ze'ev Golan, helping arrange for Dr. Eldad to be here. And some people might be wondering, who is Ze'ev Golan? So I just want to mention that Ze'ev Golan is a young man who grew up in Woodmere, used to be Wayne Perlmutter, and I just want to thank Wayne for helping us to get Dr. Eldad this morning. Thank you. One of the policies, or what would seem to be the policy of the Lehi, of the Stern Group, was sometimes to engage in assassination. There was the assassination of Lord Moyne in Egypt, and it was alleged that the assassination of Count Bernadotte, the UN representative who had come to Israel, was also an act of the Lehi. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what some people have said. Now, Moyne was assassinated in the 1944 or 44 by Eliyahu Betzuri and Eliyahu Hakim. It's the subject of an interesting book called The Deed, which written by Gerald Frank. It's a book really worth reading. But Bernadotte, if I'm not mistaken, was assassinated either after the partition vote or after the State of Israel was already established. Now, one of the goals that everyone, Lehi, Eitzel, Haganah, were all working for was the establishment of the State of Israel. Now, if that's the case, is it right, after a state has already been established, to engage in independent acts by individuals outside of the regular framework of the workings of the state? And and I would be curious to know your opinion on that, and perhaps relate that to today's situation, if it can be related at all, to the fellows who are, some of them who are still sitting in prison in what is called the Machteret in Israel.
Yes, we assassinated Moyne, we assassinated Count Bernadotte. We loved aristocrats, counts, lords, some sympathy to them. The problem of assassinating political personalities is a problem which is discussed in all the revolutionary moments through all the history. It is called the problem of individual terror. Lenin was in a great discussion with the social revolutionary in Russia. The social revolutionaries, they tried to kill the Tsar and the ministers. Lenin was against. Lenin was, we have to make a collective revolution, not by personal shooting. Lehi, we went on the way of individual terror. Why? Two reasons, in principle and in practical reasons. and we started in print in practical reasons. We were a small group. Irgun was, we had in time 47,000 fighters. Irgun has 4,000, 5,000. Haganah is more. We were not able to do such actions like the Irgun, to attack the King David or military fortress and so on. The small group, individual terror to take pistols and to go on to shoot somebody was easier. This is the truth which I have read today, 40, 50 years ago I would not tell you this story, because it's a sign of weakness, but this is the truth. But not only that, Yitzhak Shamir, he became de facto, after Stern was killed, he escaped from the prison and he built the Center Committee of Lehi, was 3 persons, was Yitzhak Shamir, was Nathaniel Moore, and me. Everybody for another partner responsible. Yitzhak Shamir was asked many times, why you shoot Lord Moyne, why you shoot Bernadotte? It is individual terror. You cannot solve problems through shooting a person. And he answered, what would happen if 1933 somebody would shoot Hitler? It is possible. In history you can never see it. Sure. In history you find the possibilities. It is possible that it could change the fate of the war. That means that in principle you cannot say never individual terror. It depends. This situation, this person, first of all, is voting. He is voting not to be alive, to be shot. Secondly, it can be always helft nicht, schadet nicht, we say the French. In French. If it does not make a damage, if it does not help, it does not damage. I say in Israel wenig. Now in concrete, Lord Moy was the man that we knew at the time. He was Minister of Colonies in the British government in 1942. He was responsible directly and personally for the drone of Struma, the 760 Jews which escaped through Bulgaria and they came to Turkey, and on his command they were not allowed to come to Israel and they were drawn. He was an anti-Semite. His speeches are in print. He spoke in the Commons of the British Commons, again the Jews are not a nation at all. They have to be mixed. Maybe we shall to send them to Madagascar. That's printed in the records of the British Parliament. He was sent by Churchill to Cairo, and he created the Arab League. It is the first organization of 7 Arab countries, at that time only 7 Arab states, which have one main task against the Zionism. He created it before he was killed by us. Did all this was known. At the Eichmann trial, was brought a witness against Eichmann with the name Joel Brandt. I don't know if you know the story of Joel Brandt from Hungary. He was sent by Eichmann with a suggestion. Eichmann will let out 1 million Jews of Hungary for 10,000 buses or tracks which they needed. They needed to take out their soldiers from Germany, from Russia. He went to the Middle East. He was imprisoned by the British, and I will not say nothing what was the role of some Zionist leaders at that time among them. He was imprisoned, brought to Cairo. In Cairo he met Lord Moyne, and he told him, this I was said by Eichmann. I give you 44, don't forget. Himmler tried already to come in contact with the Western powers against Hitler. He looked for an alibi for himself. Therefore, through the Jews he will have an alibi. Lord Moyne said to him, 1 million Jews? What will I do with 1 million Jews? Where I will put them? Lord Moyne of the British Empire, which at that time they ruled a sixth of the world. Hitler knew where to put 6 million Jews. Lord Moyne did not know where to put 1 million Jews, refugees. This Lord Moyne, Hilbrand, stood in the court in Jerusalem, and that he told. I was there, I sat there, together with the poet Chaim Guri, maybe you know his name. Chaim Guri asked me, tell me Eldad, when you decided to kill him, you knew that these were the words of Lord Moyne? It would be very fine to say, of course, and you therefore did it. No, he had no idea that Lord Brandt told us after he came and he joined Lehi, he was a Mapai, he joined Lehi after. But for us it was enough. This is the man responsible for the closing the gates of Palestine at that time when we had millions of refugees. Therefore we sent 2 boys, Eliyahu Betzuri, Eliyahu Hakim. We sent Yitzhak Shamir, took the 2 boys, he sent them to Cairo. And they assassinated Lord Moyne. In time of King David and of peace, maybe really peace with Egypt, it is very important and interesting to tell that Yitzhak Shamir gives them an instruction not to shoot to Egyptians, only to the British Lord. And a policeman, they escaped, they tried to escape, or basically, and he ran after them. If they could shoot, if they had shoot the policeman, maybe they could escape. But there was instruction, they had not to shoot them, and they were catched and put to death, convicted to death. Also, this may be interesting for you. In the book Zedid, which you mentioned, Gerald Frank, is a very dramatic book. He came back to Judaism and to Zionism. He was assimilated Jews. He was there from the New York Herald Tribune at the time of the war. He was impressed by the 2 boys. They had the defenders of them were 3 the most famous lawyers in Egypt. Volunteered for that. They had no money to send for lawyers. This I told to the people of the Jewish underground, which we came back to them. Why? Students, Egyptian students, demonstrated in the street and asked to let them free. Because at that time, de facto, the British ruled Egypt. And Lord Moyne was de facto the ruler of Egypt, even it was there a king, Pharaoh. Therefore, they were jealous. 2 boys, 2 Jewish boys came from Palestine and they shoot the Egyptian, the British ruler. One student was shot to death in the demonstration on the streets. And there's no question. The king Farouk would, under this pressure, he would or release or pardon them made for life sentence. Winston Churchill stood up in the parliament and he asked to hang them. And they were hanged. Eliyahu Hakim was a boy of a rich family from Haifa. And all the girls in Haifa loved him. He was a wonderful, a nice voice. A dancer, prima. When they heard this terrorist, they couldn't believe the last words of Eliyahu Hakim when he was hanged. Where in this, he told in the book Zedid, it is told, his last words, you know, the people which are coming to be hanged by the British rule, they are closing a red sack. He said, "This is the most beautiful dress which I have on my body on all my life." You remember him many times. Shlomo ben Yosef, which I told you in 38, And some of the people in the Jewish underground, today, I don't know if I will have to tell you, there was a boy, 18 years old, David Ben Shimol, his name. It does not belong to Gush Emunim, to the religious underground, but a week, someday, the Arab attacked the bus, and they killed 8-9 people, and among them was his grandparent. He went out, a week after that, he went out and he shot the Arab bus. And the Arab was killed. He was sentenced to life in prison. I visited him from time to time, a wonderful boy, 80 years, today already 90 years old. We hope we will ask for pardon. A wonderful boy. This was the story of Lord Moore. I remember when their bodies were brought to bury in Israel, we brought the 2 bodies. 20 years after that, Yitzhak Shamir recognized the 2 of them. Not change, but maybe the earth is so dry in Egypt. They opened the copies. This is the Aru Hakim, this is the Israel. We brought them in the prison in Jerusalem. Rabin was the prime minister. At 8 o'clock in the morning, he came to give them honor. And to the Israeli conditions, you have to know it is a wonderful thing, because in Israel, you know, the political, if you are right, you are left. It's a very great danger. I know that in Agudas Israel, I know what's going on. But he was, I cannot understand how they took him as a leader. You know, he was a homosexual.
Who are you talking about?
About Dehan.
Should this be taped?
Was a leader, was a Jew from Holland, which had a Catholic vibe. He was a Jew from Holland, who has a Catholic vibe. Was very crazy, half a sugar. And he was on the left, he came back to the Chozeh B'Tshuvah. And he was an Arab boy. He wrote a poem about the love with the Arab boy near the cotton, near the Wailing Wall. He was half crazy. And he was against the Zionism, very extreme against Zionism in 1923 in the beginning. Then the Haganah decided to kill him, not to be close to the Jewish people. I know, he was from the Agudas Israel, therefore the Agudas Israel is until to know, but if the Agudas Israel would make the Zionist movement and would take over with all the rabbi, Herzl went to them and asked them to come with him. If they would bring the million Hasidim from Brooklyn, from Warsaw, from they would govern the Israel state. Why they left the country to the Apikosim, and to the Koprim, and to the secular Jews? Why? They did not devolve the job.
Prior to the Irgun and some of the partisan groups during World War II, were there active groups in Jewish history, like at the time of the Russian Revolution?
I did not want to ask again.
Prior to the Irgun and some of the partisan groups during World War II,
In Poland.
were there other active organizations where they would fight for Yiddishkeit?
Yiddishkeit?
I mean,
At the time of the Nazis,
and during the
we had plenty books about the partisans, with the Polish, and Jewish partisans. In each, it was impossible at that time to build a united, no connections. In Bialystok it looks another way, in Poland it looks another way. In every place, and the local conditions allowed. It was, you know, we were asked many times the question, how 6 million Jews demonstrated? Hitler, in 3 weeks he finished French, with the army, with the state. What could the Jews, the miserable Jews, do without nothing, without weapons, without the state? What we want from them? France, empire. Was on the knees after 3 weeks. Impossible. Who saws the German greatness and the power therefore, and they came around the Jews? It was impossible. But that's possible, and this possible, today, to go home. Yeah, thank you very much.
כל הכבוד.
בסדר,
בסדר
אבל
גמור.
בסדר.
תערוך. אני לא יודע אם אתה זוכר את אחותי.
לא.
שלום, רחל. פגשנו בפגישה.
שקור.
אני אגיד לכבודו מה שאבי אומר כל פעם, זה מה שאבי אמר לבן גוריון, הם היו בקשר כל החיים. אז שאל אותו מה הנקודה של מגן דוד, אז הוא אמר לו הנקודה של מגן דוד זה המוצא של היהודים. מאיפה אני לוקח את זה? הוא אומר אין דבר בעולם של פחות משבע ויותר משבע. למשל, למעלה, מטה, 4 דרגים בפנים, זה המגן דוד. זה 6?
יש לי הרעיון הזה במוחי, שהיה הבדל תוכנית בין לח"י ואצ"ל בדבר אחד גם כן, ששיטת בגין היה שהיו צריכים לעשות איזה פעולה שכל פעם
להזהיר
ואצ"ל לא הזהיר.
לא, אנחנו לא הזהיר. זה נכון.
זה נכון.
זה נכון ודאי. כדי למנוע קורבנות אזרחיים.
ובגין גם כן אצ"ל רק ירו במישהו שעשה משהו. למשל, שוטר בריטי שלא עשה שום דבר, לא היו יורים נגד.
כלומר, אם נהרגים תוך כדי פעולה לרבוש משטרה, כן, אבל לצאת לחוף להרוג חיילים זה לא. אנחנו כן. יצאנו לחוף והרגנו, לא היה זמן פה להיכנס לניתוח למה להסביר את הדבר הזה.
זה נכון. האנשים פה הם מלומדים, הם יודעים.
אני ראיתי שאנשים
הם אנשים מלומדים, שומרי תורה, כל הילדים שלהם הולכים לבתי ישיבות.
כן, ראיתי שהחומר לא לגמרי זר להם וידעו היה להם מושג.
Where are you going from here? Where do you live?